Welcome to the Counter Narrative Podcast, a show designed to change the way we talk and think about education. By sharing stories of successes and triumphs, we aim to challenge the dominant narrative that often negatively portrays our disenfranchised populations. I'm your host, Charles Williams, an educator for 15 years, a current school principal in Chicago, and an educational consultant. Let's get started. So look, before we jump into this episode, I wanted to share a special holiday promotion that my friends over at Kick It Apparel are currently running. For a limited time, you can get customized gear at some amazing prices. I'm talking $25 hoodies, $15 tees, and $10 masks. These are the same people who hooked me up with my awesome Counter Narrative hoodie. Check them out at kickit.store and tell them that Charles sent you. This is a special episode for a special day. See, I don't know when you're actually listening to this episode, but I can tell you that today, well, the original air date is December 25th, Christmas Day. And for that reason, I wanted to do a little something different. Now, and I feel that I need to say this before someone attempts to get politically correct, my original intention was to showcase various holidays and their respective traditions. However, when called upon for support, these few individuals graciously stepped forward and offered to lend their voices to this special episode. It just so happened that each of them celebrated Christmas. This episode features some of my friends as we reflect on what Christmas means to us, recall some of our fondest Christmas memories, and share how we carry on traditions today. I can honestly say that I had a great time recording this session as we laughed and cried while not only growing closer together, but realizing those innate connections that exist within all of humankind. Whether it was the receiving of deodorant, the baking of cookies, the creation of new experiences, or simply spending time with loved ones. Christmas, whether you celebrate it or not, transcends its religious foundation and instead embraces a single concept: love. Well, you're not here to listen to the intro, no. You came for the episode. So before I transition you over, I would like to wish all of my listeners a very Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, or whatever holiday it is that you celebrate. May you all find yourselves in the comfort of your loved ones, whether in person or virtually. I look forward to connecting with all of you in the new year. All right, hello and welcome to the Counter Narrative Podcast. I'm so excited to have all of you on the show today. We're doing something a little special, right? This is the holiday special. So with me today, I have 5 wonderful guests. So before we jump into anything, we're going to go around the table, let each of them introduce themselves. So Debbie, we'll start with you.
Hi, I am Debbie Ferguson. I am the founder and CEO of A Better Classroom here in Connecticut. My company does workshops, consulting, teacher mentoring, systems planning, whatever you need to help make your school more productive and positive. And I'm so grateful and honored to be asked to be part of this panel today with these wonderful people.
Thank you for being here, Debbie. Thank you so much. Asael, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Hey, once again, this is Asael Rubalcaba, the principal of Rio Hondo High School, way down here in South Texas. So just glad to be on this panel with these great guests on here. So thanks for having me here, Charles.
Of course, of course. I'm looking forward to interacting with you again. And so now, next up, we have Tracy. Tracy, introduce yourself.
I'm Tracy Browder. Charles, thank you for having me. I am an educator and I have a podcast, Intelligogy the podcast, and I do a lot of equity work and anti-racism awareness and education for schools with the company, and my co-founder is Dawn Harris, and together we have Grit Crew EDU.
Appreciate it, Tracy. As always, love all the work that we do. And now I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, Kwame. Kwame, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Charles. And hello, everybody. My name is Kwame Sarfamenta. I am the founder and CEO of Identity Talk Consulting. And we're based here in Boston, Massachusetts. And we do a lot of work with primarily early career teachers and all K-12 teachers around culturally responsive teaching, and just other aspects of teacher development. So that can come in the form of virtual programming, workshops with different districts, teacher education programs, and educational nonprofits. And outside of doing the consulting work, I also have my own podcast called Identity Talk for Educators Live, which is on all streaming platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all those platforms. And I'm just honored to be here on this panel.
Well, Kwame, I appreciate you being here. Guys, make sure you check them out. And last but not least, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer.
Hey there, Jennifer Haston Machieski here, and I am way super pumped to be here right now. So I hope you can you can probably hear it in my voice. I am a special education teacher, a behavior specialist. I do some nature therapy also. I'm big into hiking. I actually just bought a school bus. I'm converting it into a schoolie and hoping to just travel around. And I started a business called Stop, Breathe, Be, where I bring mindfulness and yoga into the schools. And so I'm kind of hoping just to take that all on the road, I guess. I've got 4 kids and I'm just going to homeschool them all. We're just going to travel the U.S. and see what happens starting this summer. So I'm super, super excited for that. We'll see what happens.
Jennifer, that sounds amazing. If you happen to come up into our corner, and I'm sure as you travel across the country, we have people from all over the country. Make sure you stop by and say hello.
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for introducing yourselves. For all the listeners, you can hear we have a dynamic setup. Any of these guests would be wonderful by themselves. So I'm super excited to bring this special episode loaded with some amazing guests here for you today. So we have 3 simple questions that we're going to talk about. We're going to reflect on Christmas. We're going to look forward and just have a little bit of fun. So first question, first things up here. I just want to ask you guys, think about this really quick. What does Christmas mean to you, right? When you hear Christmas, when you think of Christmas, when this time of season comes around, what does it mean to you? So Debbie, I'm going to kick it over to you first.
Christmas to me means being together with my family, and that's what it has always been. I grew up in a family with 4 kids, and there's 12 years between my oldest sibling and my youngest sibling. And as we moved, went to school, graduated, moved around the country, that meant I was going to get to see everybody again. And we were all going to be together just like we were when we were kids, and laugh and get caught up and be able to hug each other. And that's what I love about Christmas, is just being together. And to me, it means family. It means being together. It means happiness.
That's beautiful. I'm going to continue with you.
As far as Christmas for me, pretty similar. It's family time. Just growing up here in South Texas, just getting together with the family, with the uncles, and it was very special time. And Christmas also reminds me growing up, and my mom's birthday's on the 24th, so it was always a special time to be celebrating her birthday on Christmas Eve, and then followed by the birth of Jesus. So my mom's super, super religious, so she always kept the meaning of Christ in Christmas. So again, family time, and just that's pretty much it.
So, I have to ask. So, mom's birthday's Christmas Eve, next day's Christmas. How do you do the gifts?
Uh, with, for us, the gifts, we growing up, we used to go to midnight mass. Growing up Catholic, religion played a major part. So my grandma and my mom and my aunts and uncles, it was we had to go to midnight mass. And after midnight mass, we'd come back and open up the few presents that we did have for each other. But, again, and I don't want to talk too much right now because there's other questions, but we grew up poor. So the gifts didn't really mean so much. It was just that family time.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and keep this moving here. Tracy, I'm coming over to you.
So, Asiel and I have a lot in common as I was listening to him. For me, it's faith, family, and hope. Um, we are a very spiritual family, and I'm actually, let's see, all of my uncles, my grandfather, they're all in ministry. So that faith is just really, really big in the Jackson family. That's my maiden name. And everything centers around focusing on the birth of Jesus Christ. We're in church a lot leading up to Christmas. And, our family is huge. So we were always together. And not only were we together, we were celebrating the birth of Jesus. And there's just such hope in that. So that wrap all of that together. And then after church, somehow we all migrated back to my house. And my dad he's one of 12, and then they all had kids. So you can imagine what kind of celebration it was at my house growing up.
Wow. Thank you, Tracy. I'm glad to hear, even though, we try to do something, get all of these different, people on the show here, definitely this idea of faith is coming through. So thank you for sharing on that. Kwame, I'm going to bring it over to you.
All right. So, what does the holiday season mean to me? Well, I think for my family, it's pretty simple. I mean, we're also a spiritual family. So, for us, it's about fun, food, family, the three F's.
There you go.
Just growing up as a child, Christmas, it was all about the presents. But we also enjoyed our time with our family. But for us, it was about getting that next video game. So I'm gonna date myself. Growing up in the late '80s and early '90s, it was always about getting that new Super Nintendo game. The new Sega Genesis game
on Atari.
Oh, that's way back.
Oh, wow,
now you're
really?
I know I said I'm gonna date myself, but I mean that far. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow, Kwame. Okay, now you sound like my teenage son. My teenage son would say, "Wow, Ma, you old."
Listen, so I'm approaching my 40s, so that should just kind of give you an idea. But yeah, just it was always about the presence, and just being around family. Because that was a time where we were able to meet with our other extended family, so our cousins, our aunts and uncles who live nearby, who we didn't really get a chance to see throughout the course of the calendar year. So just having the opportunity to be in fellowship, I guess that's the fourth F, right? With our family. And then the foods too. Food's great too because my family's from West Africa, Ghana more specifically. So we always had that good food. Mom's cooking all the different delicacies and dishes that we just fetish. So it was just a great time to be um, with each other to close out the year.
Thank you. So Kwame, I have to ask, favorite game, favorite console?
Oh man, now you really put me on the spot. Okay. Wow, favorite. I don't know if I have a favorite, but I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go on a limb and say, at the time, it was Sega Genesis. And the reason why is because you know how there are some games that just translated better on Sega Genesis as opposed to Super Nintendo.
Okay.
I just felt like Sega Genesis, the graphics were more crisp, even though it was 16-bit. But I guess my next one would have been the Nintendo 64.
Mario Kart.
Nice.
Mario Kart, 007, James Bond, those
Smash
games.
Brothers.
Classic, yeah.
Yeah. But I can't get into the PS5s and the Xboxes. Now that I'm an adult, like I don't really play video games like that. So like that's way out of my league now.
Too many buttons for me.
Yes.
And I'll
I
just
played
be quiet.
Pac-Man at a bar. I had Pac-Man and Pong at bars.
Yeah.
That counts.
Yeah.
I'm a Galaga guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Since we've taken this little detour, if you haven't seen it yet, there's a whole series on Netflix about like video games and the history. And so if you haven't seen it yet, definitely watch it. It will take you back down memory lane, and I think you'll have a blast. So I appreciate you, Kwame, opening that door. But I'm going to turn it over now to Jennifer. Jennifer, what does Christmas mean to you?
Oh, man. My husband would tell you that I overuse the word magical during this time of the year. Everything's just so magical. And he's like, oh, God, if one more thing is magical, I'm out of here. But it just tends to bring out my extra positivity reflective side, I guess, because I really like to I just spend so much time contemplating how grateful I am for everything that I have, for being able to spend one more year on this earth. And I start to really, I feel like it comes always right after, elections, especially this year, hashtag 2020. But I just tend to really reflect on people, and I just start to remind myself that I really believe that people ultimately want to do and be good. And so I find myself becoming more charitable. Even when people pull out and hit me with their carts and they don't look where they're going and they pull out in front of you in the grocery store. And I just want to get so grumpy, but for some reason this time of year just makes me extra happy. And I start to think a lot more about how I might make the next year better than the previous year, which hopefully isn't too difficult after the year that we've all shared together. It's just a really reflective time for me. And I like to push that on my kids too. And I do push it on them. We journal a lot this year. We all do extra charitable acts around the town, around the community, and for the neighbors. And I know one day my kids will thank me, even if they're grumbling about doing things for the neighbors, the mean ones specifically. So it's good for them. They'll thank me someday. That's my motto.
They need it the most.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
I know. And I think that's why we do it. We choose one person that we really believe, and everybody has to pick a different person that we really believe needs some, we call them the grump fish from, one of my kids loved the bubble guppies, and there was a fish on there called Mr. Grumpfish. And so we always pick one Mr. Grumpfish, and we always do something nice for them. So.
Aww.
Well, I mean, we've seen how that impacts people, right? Like
for sure.
Scrooge and the Grinch, right? You guys are just making it real life.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And so speaking of, joy and festivities and things like that, I know many, many people, because of 2020, right? And everything that 2020 has encompassed, they're just not in the spirit this year, right? I know when I was working with my staff and we were talking about end of year things, right? This is our last week, and typically we go big. We have a staff party. We do Secret Santa. I mean, we have a really great time. And this year they said, Mr. Williams, we're just not really feeling it, right? We're not together. We don't see each other, except, over Google. And so I wanted to take a moment here, instead of, right, maybe being in that spot of like, it's really hard to get into joy this year. I want us to kind of go back for a second. Right, let's reach back into our memories and pull up a fond holiday tradition or a memory from our childhood, something that just makes you smile. So, the one thing whenever I think of Christmas is I moved from Chicago to Indiana when I was about 3 or 4, somewhere in that area. And I moved into my grandparents' house, and it was on Christmas, right? And so here I was, this little boy. My mom still has this picture, and you could see the joy and wonder in my eyes. As first of all, I'm walking into a house, right? We lived in apartments in the city, and so this now we get to move into a house, right? I have my own room, and it's Christmas. So my grandparents had a house all decorated for Christmas, and Jennifer, like you said, it was magical, right? It was just this wonderful, wonderful moment. And so that is one of my biggest memories, right? No matter how old I get, I kind of tap back into that because it was the innocence, that just joy surrounding Christmas. And so I'm curious for you guys, what is a fond holiday memory that you have? So Debbie, I'm going to kick it over to you.
I actually have two. My first one is just when we get up. When we would get up in the morning as kids, we would all climb onto my parents' bed, six of us all in this bed, and my dad would go downstairs and get everybody's stockings, and we would open up the stockings on the bed, and we had to go one person at a time, and it was just, I don't know, it was just this really casual, emotionally close and physically close time that we were together, and that's something that I continued with my kids when they were little. Now they're the late 20s now, but when they were little, we used to do that, and I love that. And the other thing that we did was we would bake, which I love to do, and bake platters of cookies or cakes or pumpkin bread or whatever, and we would get in the car. We did it on Christmas Eve. We would go around to those friends that my parents had, the ones that I called, Aunt Alice or, Uncle Bob or whatever. They were that close. And we would just run up to the door and ring the doorbell. They'd open it, say Merry Christmas, hand it to them, and run back in the car. Because it was just about giving something silly, whether it was like I said, a plate of cookies or a little loaf of bread or whatever. And it was just a way to remind people that we care about them and they're important to us. And we've continued that as well.
Very nice. It's almost like how we have to do it now with COVID, right? Just run up and run back.
Yeah,
like, sorry.
Ring and run. Yeah. Ding dong
Right.
ditch.
Debbie, do you need my address?
I
Debbie,
do not
you
have
need my
your address. I don't. But I'd probably get to Kwame before anybody else because he's the closest.
Asaya, what about you?
I'll stick to the two here, to the two theme as far as two fond memories. One of them, my grandma, she used to be an Avon salesperson. So growing up, she would give us deodorant for Christmas. So we all knew, like,
that.
all right, deodorants from Avon. So everyone knew, like, all right, what deodorant did you get this year? And like, hey, Grandma, can't you get us a toy or something? But Avon didn't sell toys at the time, so
you had to get that kickback.
Right.
I was taking offense to that, but that's just me.
we did, but so I'm like, hey, Grandma, you trying to tell us something here?
It's the thought that counts. Oh wait,
Oh,
what
big
was
time.
the thought?
All right.
Wait, what was the thought?
And we loved her for that, and we all knew what we were gonna get, but we still had a blast. The other thing, I don't recall too many Christmas presents as far as even from my parents, or Santa Claus for that matter. But there was one present that always that's always there as far as in my memory. And one year, our parents, for the five of us, the five siblings, they gave us a tetherball set. And man, playing tetherball back in the day, that was a I don't know, it was just an awesome game to play. I don't know if you all know what tetherball is, but
Yeah.
one of the best presents we ever received from our parents. So yeah, those were the two highlights that I can recall.
Nice. And now I'm imagining you out there like Napoleon Dynamite, just
Big time.
nice. Thank you, Tracy. What about you?
Well, I'm gonna start here. I won't mention my Ataris. No, really. Gosh, that question. So, Christmas as a child for me, I feel like is extra special because my dad passed away from lung cancer when I was 9 years old, and oh my goodness, those all of those years leading up to that, it's like, I mean, if he could have just, like, he knew and he made every year just that magical word. Um, Christmas was amazing, and we didn't have a lot of money. In fact, when we went camping was in the back of a station wagon. I didn't realize till I grew up that we were poor. I just always felt like we were so comfortable. And I guess he did everything he could through the whole year to just fill our floor with gifts and decorating the tree. I'm really dating myself along with the Atari, the silver aluminum tree with the, y'all are
They've come
giggling like,
back.
what is
They
that?
have come back. They've come back. They've come back.
Yeah.
Let me Google
So,
that.
all right. You can go ahead and Google the reflecting lamp that sits on the floor with the plastic shield, different colors, and it would rotate on the tree. That was our definition of Christmas lights. Um, so, see, just all of those things. So, decorating the tree, having that fun with the family, the presents, opening a gift the night before, but just really having a ton of fun. That memory of just fun with my family and my dad. Oh, it's just beautiful.
Thank you, Tracy. Like, I don't know about everybody else, but right now it's really hard not to just sit here and just be smiling and wrapped in this warmth of everything you guys are sharing.
Yep. I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Same.
So, Kwame, what about you?
Ah, two traditions. All right, I'm gonna narrow it down to the one memory that I do have is every Christmas. Well, actually, on Christmas Eve, we were allowed to open up one of our presents.
Jealous.
That was a tradition that we had, and then the rest we just took care of the next day. Um, but yeah, other than that, like we just were able to just kind of just sit around and really just enjoy each other. I know for one, my brother and I, we were big fans of A Christmas Story. So you know how they have the marathons all day long. So we're watching, A Christmas Story and drinking eggnog, unspiked at the time, but we enjoyed it. Um, and yeah, and just having our early Christmas dinner and dessert, which was usually apple pie with a little bit more eggnog. Um, yeah. So it was really simple. So I mean, it's not anything that was super formal. I mean, it was really just being in fellowship with each other and just having that time to spend because those times were rare throughout the course of the calendar year.
So, if you're ever out this way, Kwame, at the Indiana Welcome Center, right on off of 8094, they every year around this time they do a huge Christmas story, setup, right? Because part of it was filmed, right? It was like set in Hammond, Indiana, which is where I grew up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so if you're ever out this way, I mean, they go all out, right? Sometimes some of the cast, they come out and they show up and they do autographs and stuff like that. So yeah, like just something to put on your list.
Hey, and if anybody's able to help me find a lamp, I'd be so grateful to you as well.
Oh, they have the lamps. You could buy.
They got the
Kwame,
lamp.
just send me your address, Kwame. Send me your address. So Jennifer, what about you?
I'm not even going to lie. This question is really hard for me. My parents often worked on Christmas morning, and so we just kind of squeezed Christmas in when we could. And so it was really hard to have traditions when you never knew if you were going to have Christmas the day it was Christmas. But every Christmas Eve night, we would drive, and it was just my dad and I that did this. My mom would always, she'd either be working or she'd be home with my baby sister because we're 6 years apart. But my dad would always take me out. We'd drive all around town looking at Christmas lights. And he would always pack a thermos of hot chocolate. And so when we were finished driving through what I always called the fancy neighborhoods, oh, Dad, go through the fancy neighborhoods so we can look at their lights. We would drive up this old brick road. And this was in Peru, Indiana. So a little no-name town. I guess it's the circus capital of the world, if you want to call it that. But we would drive up this brick road to this huge hill that overlooked the whole town. He would kind of back up to the hill and we'd sit in the back, covered up with a blanket and just drink that hot chocolate and just look at the lights. And I always remember trying to talk and he'd always be like, shh, this is like, you have to sit in silence, which if you know me, he acts like it was for a good reason, but really it's because I just talk too much. But I really as I got older, I realized that this was a good time for reflection. And now that I'm sitting here telling you this story, it's hitting me that that's probably why I spend so much time reflecting that's what I started out saying this season meant to me. And I wonder if that's why, that was really the only memory that I have of the consistent memory that I have of Christmas and the holidays is just sitting there quietly looking at lights at nighttime and reflecting. And so, that is magical, you guys. I might be tearing up right now. If this were video, you can see that, but it's not.
Because you just made that connection. Wow.
Yeah, sure. This is therapy. Wow.
You're welcome. And it's much cheaper.
Just bill me later, Joel.
So, you know what? Since you guys threw two out there, I want to throw out another one. And I don't think it would be complete. And so any of my family listening to this right now, the one thing that I could always, and so it's going off of kind of like you said, Asel, with grandma giving you a gift and you knew what you were going to get, but it wasn't deodorant. So what my grandma gave, it was not deodorant. Sorry. But what she gave us every year, since I can remember, was this little box of Legos, right? Just the tiny one, right? Something simple that you put together, but it was every year. And I knew, right? I knew I was going to get it. And what I think was awesome about that was that it never stopped. Up until the point when my grandmother passed away, which was about 5 years ago now, she was still giving me that little box of Legos, right? It was just, it was a thing, right? And so I remember the very first year after she passed, right? Christmas, holidays in general are never the same. And so I remember, kind of sitting there like, I'm not getting my Legos this year, right? Like it was a somber moment. And then my brother gave me Legos. And he was just like, I wanted to keep it going, right? Like it was just a thing. And so absolutely, right? Those memories just kind of anchor us into what it means. And so thank you everyone for sharing on those. So not only
Kwame, you
go
can
ahead.
get that lamp on Amazon. I just checked.
Oh, nice. I appreciate you, but I don't know how I'm going to explain that to my wife, but okay.
You got to remind her it's Italian, right? Fragile.
There you go.
So let's shift our perspectives a little bit. Let's take a look towards the future here, and I just want to ask, in what ways, right, are you continuing any of these legacies, right? Now that we're adults, right? We have our own families. In what ways are you continuing these legacies, or, right, have you tried to do something different? Have you tried to build a new set of traditions and memories with your own? So, I'm going to come back to you, Debbie. What about you?
We are kind of in the process of doing that in a way right now. My son got married over Labor Day weekend to an amazing woman, and I've never done Christmas with any of my children who have been married. And I know what I wanted to do when I had gotten married for my first Christmas or my subsequent Christmas. So I don't actually know what we're going to do. So that'll be different. I've been very, very spoiled in that I've had my children every single Christmas since they were born. And my oldest is now 29. So it's
Wow.
going to be different. I mean, we still do the thing with the stockings, and we started a new tradition because, you know, 4 kids now with Adrian 5, and mommy doing all the stockings is a lot of stockings. So I pull all their names out of a hat, and Mackenzie does Caitlin's, and Caitlin's does Guillaume's, and Guillaume's does Maud's does Zeta. Everybody does everybody else's stocking. So that is a new tradition that we've done, and the baking and the ring and run with the baking is one that we keep doing. But we're going to be making some new ones. So I actually don't know. It's a process right now of how and especially now with COVID, like I don't know how everything is going to look, but tradition wise, we're going to be making some new ones, and it's exciting because we're making new ones because a wonderful thing happened. So I'm curious to see where our tradition journey goes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Debbie. What about you, SIL?
Oh, my dad passed in 2008 and of prostate cancer. And recently, one of my uncles passed away here in the past month. And so these, like my dad, my uncles, these are people that I looked up to, and I still look up to them. And so recently I gave a little speech at my uncle's viewing, and I just mentioned just that I had these ideal role models growing up, and so we're definitely missing them, especially at Christmas time. But now it's like the torch has been passed, and now it's
Mhm.
my turn,
Mhm.
and my brothers, my cousins to continue the legacies, the tradition. So yeah, getting emotional here.
Mhm.
Well,
So,
Mhm.
Christmas
so
is emotional. Family is emotional.
Mhm.
yeah, so just the passing of the torch. Now it's our turn to make those magical moments. So yeah,
Mhm.
SIL, if I may, I know that we haven't known each other very long, right? But I would like to think that based on the little bit that I do know you, that you're going to make an amazing role model, right, for the rest of your
Mhm.
Mhm.
family. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Absolutely.
definitely think that you're up for it.
thanks, Charles.
Mhm.
All right, Tracy, going to move it over to you. We're going to have to warn the listeners to bring out some tissue here.
Say that,
Sorry
Tracy.
about that.
I'm not
Uh,
crying. You're crying.
Or as Dr. Baso would say, my eyes are getting sweating, sweaty eyes. They're just sweating. That's all it is.
oh goodness. Just listening to that, Asel, very sorry for your loss. Um, that time that we have with our loved ones is so very precious. And, Charles, I thank you for pulling us together so we can have this conversation. And so, what we've taken from my childhood, my husband is from a single parent home, and his mother is amazing and did a wonderful job raising 4 children. But, so we come from different backgrounds. I had that rich, rich, rich family, 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 fun, fun, fun. And they did too, but it was a struggle. It was the single mom working hard. And so our backgrounds are a little different. And my husband has heard so much about my background that I feel like, well, also, his dad just wasn't in the picture. So I feel like it's a combination of my stories and his dad not being in the picture that he wanted to. I feel like he had this vision and this drive and this passion and this purpose to make Christmas more than magical for our sons and the traditions. It's just been beautiful watching our new traditions unfold. And keeping some of those things that were precious to me, like large family gatherings. We have a family fellowship breakfast. That's the new twist. That's what we call it now. There was always family at my house as a kid. And now for us pre-COVID, it's not just family, it's people from our church, from our community, like it's friends. And everybody brings something, and the whole kitchen counter is covered with all sorts of food. So that's been something really, really special and near and dear to my heart. And then I'll say this really quickly: my youngest son is exceptionally gifted, and I challenge him in many ways. And so we brainstormed several years ago. I'm like, dude, you got to do something with all of these gifts you have outside of school. And so he came up with adopting a family each Christmas, and we call it the Christmas Buddy program. But the whole community rallies around this family. The families, it's confidential who the family is, but he tells the needs. He does these video promos, and there's a drive-through night at a restaurant where people drop off the gifts, and money from what they order goes to the family. So that's been a new tradition that is just, oh gosh, selfless and full of gratitude. And to see somebody else that is in need that you don't even think of, that we take for granted, it just really grounds you and helps you remember what the meaning of Christmas really is.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Tracy, that is a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really hoping and wondering, if there's listeners and other people, and I'm sure there are, just doing the same thing, right? Just reaching out and making sure that while we are sharing some wonderful, wonderful memories, not everybody gets that, right? And so making sure that people are taken care of during this time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Kwame, I'm gonna move it over to you.
All right. As far as legacies, so my wife and I, we have a 3-year-old son. So his first year, he was born in November on Thanksgiving, November 2017. So we didn't really have much of a Christmas that first year because he was so young. And then I think 2018, what happened in 2018? I think 2018 and then 2019 was just kind of crazy because, my wife and I, well, the whole family, we actually had been moving around a lot. So my wife works for the Peace Corps. So we were stationed in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Oh, wow.
Right. So, in the midst of trying to get adjusted to our new surroundings, we didn't really take a whole lot of time to think about just celebrating Christmas in the way that we did growing up. So we didn't even have a tree, we didn't have the lights, because we were still trying to get adjusted and settled, with all the other things that we're trying to bring. So, we're hoping that this year is probably gonna be the first year where we're gonna have some semblance of a Christmas celebration, with family because we are stateside. So he'll be with his grandparents, and we're actually in the Midwest right now visiting my mom and my sister and my nephew and nieces because we hadn't seen them in over a year. So he's able to spend time with them, which is a change from the first few years because it was just him with mommy and daddy. So to be with other kids around that time, that's been special for my wife and I to watch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Priceless.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Kwame, he's 3, right?
He's 3 now. Yep, 3 years old.
Man, it's such a fun time for Christmas.
Yes, it
Mm-hmm.
is.
Mhm.
But to answer your question, Charles, just moving forward, we'd like to just, and it's something that my wife and I we've talked about. Is just we have to really make the most of these holiday seasons. You know, even if it's just having a tree and some lights up so they can feel the magic and the whole experience of the season. You know, we have to at least do that. You know, just for him because that's what we had growing up, and we don't want to strip him of that opportunity to experience that as well.
Yeah, you're right, right? That it's as we get older, we realize that holiday magic, were those around us that loved us, right? That made sure that we had that holiday magic. So enjoy him, enjoy him.
I'm getting so nostalgic right now, you guys.
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So Jennifer, I'm gonna bring this one home with you. What about you?
You know, having come from a childhood where traditions weren't important, it was so hard. And like I said earlier, I've got 4 kids, and they range from I've got a 14-year-old son all the way down to a 2.5-year-old daughter. And there's a big gap between my third and my last one here. I found myself a single mom of 3 kids under 5, and I didn't know how to give them the Christmas that I thought that my kids deserved, I guess. And
Mhm.
especially coming from the family that I did, I had a rougher childhood, and so we have we all have these ideas of what our family's going to look like and what it's going to be like, and when it doesn't happen, we kind of just have to just pivot, and that's what I found myself doing. And I thought I had made this vow when I had my son 14 years ago. I said, I want to vow to take my kids on a vacation. I don't care if we're going to, Lake Michigan for a couple days, or if we're going camping 3 miles from home. I want to make sure that they have a vacation. That was something my entire childhood, I never went on a vacation. And so I wanted to give that to my kids. And I found one Christmas, after the first Christmas after my husband and I divorced, I couldn't afford Christmas. And we had gone the whole year, and I couldn't afford a vacation. And it was the first year that I wasn't able to do that for my kids. And so I looked around, and my parents were getting everything for the kids, and his parents were getting stuff for the kids, and it was just, I was like, why do my kids need all this stuff? And it just like clicked for me that I just wanted to be able to take my kids somewhere and have memories. That's what they're going to remember. And I know that you guys were talking about, the Nintendo you got when you were younger. And now I'm dating myself because it was a Nintendo, but the Nintendo that you got, or, your deodorant from your grandma. I can't remember anything I got for Christmas. And so I decided that I was just going to every year take my kids on vacation for Christmas. And so we would leave Christmas night or the next morning, and that was their Christmas gift. And they never knew, and it still is to this day. They got older, and my son's 14. He's got his phone, and my 11-year-old's got her friends, and she wants to talk to them. And I just said, you have a choice. You can have Christmas presents out the wazoo, or we can go on a trip. And they continuously every year choose the trip. And they never know where we're going until we get there. Now my son's figured it out because he pulls up maps on his phone, but and so that's what we do. That's my current husband now has such a huge family, and they have so many family gatherings, which I appreciate because I didn't have that. And so to me, it started out as being an obligation. When I first met him, I was like, oh my, another family gathering. What are we? How many families do you have? But it's perfect. It's a perfect balance because we spend that Christmas Eve, and we spend the week before Christmas and that Christmas Day, and we go to his families and we celebrate with them, and we celebrate at our house Christmas morning, just opening stockings and one, quote, Santa gift. And then they don't know where we're going. They get their stockings are always full of snacks for the road. And this year it's big. So we're flying for the first time ever as a family. Mm-hmm. And we've saved up all year. So we're excited to give them these memories. And to me, that's what Christmas, I love traveling. It's important to me, and I want it to be important to them. And those memories, we're all sitting here and we're nostalgic, but that's time we're busy all year long. They're in sports now. I'm always running them somewhere, dance and soccer and everything. And so just to be able to spend that week after Christmas together is really important to me. And it's become really important to them too, instead of making it about gifts.
Jennifer, that's awesome. You're going to have to tell us after we're done recording, right, where you're going,
Yes.
so we could add it to the show notes, because I don't want to spoil the surprise.
Yeah. And they might be able to hear me. My son's room is right above and they wait. They look for hints all year, and they just wait to see where we're going to go. And so I can't say it now, but it'll be big.
Oh,
that is awesome. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to hear where you guys are going to go this year.
Mm-hmm.
So just to wrap this up, I want to share one of my own. When I was young, I lived with my grandparents, and my grandparents were the central figures of our family, right? So for big holidays, everybody came to my grandparents' house. We were all at my grandparents' house, right? On Christmas Eve, there'd be people sleeping all over the place, right? And we'd get up, we'd open presents, we'd have our meals together, and it was just, everybody together. And so now, right now that my grandparents have passed, like Asael, you kind of mentioned earlier, right? That torch has been shifted, right? And so that my house is now that house. But because I'm married, it's not just my one side of the family, it's my family, my wife's family. And so, right, between the two of us, my wife and I, we have 5 daughters, right? The youngest being 17. And just everybody comes over. So it's nothing short of us hosting, 25 plus people, right? And we just bond together, right? And so there have been times, and I'll be honest with you, it's like I look at our house, right, in our like I said, my baby's 17 now, and it's like, do we need this, right? Can we get something smaller? Can we be like Jennifer and just get a bus and like travel? Like, can we do something different? But it's the reality is we've become that central figure, right? And it's not just holidays, it's birthdays, it's just gatherings, right? Families need a central place, something that they know they can count on, right? A point of consistency. And our home has become that. And so, even though that puts a lot of pressure, on me and my wife, right? I do all the cooking, right? It's nice to know that we could continue providing that sense of stability and that ongoing tradition for our family. So definitely understand everything that you guys have shared. And just once again, I want to say thank you so much for joining me and for sharing, right, in these Christmas memories and talking about what it means to you and how we're going to hold on to this moving forward. So, I wanted to do something special. You guys did not disappoint. So I just want to say thank you for being guests on the show today.
Thank you for bringing us together.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks for having us.
me nostalgic and teary and giggly and just more. I think I'm going to walk away feeling more appreciative after listening to everybody's stories and everybody's different backgrounds and histories and traditions. It just makes me more appreciative of just Christmas, just being together and all those topics that you brought up. So thank you very much for bringing all of us together and everybody else who was here.
For sure.
And Charles, yeah, and thank you, yes, but thank you for doing it now in the season that we're in, when we need to pull back and reflect and think about the future, now more than ever. We need that hope, and you giving us pause to do this feels really good. Feels really good.
Yeah, and as I'm reflecting on just the whole conversation and just what we've discussed over the past 50 minutes, close to an hour, I just can't help but think about just yes, all people, but we're all educators, so we can't help but think about those teachers who have not been able to see their family members in
Mm-hmm.
over a year as a result
Mhm.
of COVID-19. Just the
Mm-hmm.
separation anxiety that has come into play, that has factored into this whole um, predicament. Um, I mean, this is just something that was needed for not just us, but for so many people who are just out there making sure that other people are okay when, the reality is we're not always okay, but we still got to
Mm-hmm.
keep pushing forward. So I just
Mm-hmm.
want to put that out there.
Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to get caught up in the negatives, and especially again, hashtag 2020. It's easy to get caught up in all the negative that's surrounding us right now, and so to be able to take this moment and reflect back on times, even if they weren't the best of times, just to be able to reflect back at a time where we were more innocent and things were more simple. That's a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And thank everybody
Absolutely.
for being so raw and so open.
Mm.
You could have
Mm-hmm.
glossed over it and said, "Oh, we opened presents and we had dinner." You shared
Mm-hmm.
some very, very thought-provoking memories, and I appreciate you opening up that much.
Mm-hmm. Very intimate.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes.
that vulnerability was real for sure.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Well, I want to say thank you one last time here. I hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. Whatever it is that you're going to be doing, because I know it's different this year, right? Like, it's going to be super hard on my wife because it's just the two of us. We don't get to have that big old family gathering this year. We have people kind of all over the place, and so it's going to be hard. But whatever it is that you're doing, right? I hope that you have an amazing time, and just I think tonight means all of that, right? The magic, the love, the family, the fellowship, in whatever capacity that you can. I hope that you guys all have a wonderful holiday. Be safe, and I look forward to talking to you all very soon.
Hmm.
Thank you. I second that
Thank
emotion
you.
to everybody.
Yes,
Yes, thank you,
thank
everybody.
you.
Thank you.
This
Thank you
was
Thank
so
you.
much.
magical.
Yes. Happy holidays,
Definitely.
everyone.
Yes.
Likewise.
Yes, happy holidays.
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Don't believe me? Here's 5 reasons why. First, it's free. Second, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. 3, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so many more. 4, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And 5, it's everything you need to make a podcast, all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. I want to thank you for listening to the Counter Narrative Podcast. If you like what you are hearing, please be sure to like and subscribe. The show can be found on Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and several of your other favorite platforms. This podcast is also featured on schoolrubric.com, where you can find educational articles, videos, and interviews with educators from around the globe. Be sure to connect with the host and other listeners by following the show on Twitter at the CN Podcast and joining the show's Facebook group. Take care.